Hello everyone and welcome back to Developer Soapbox. Today I want to talk to you about H2 database basics. If you're not familiar with the H2 database, it's basically similar to like a SQLite, so it's just a single file standalone database. So in this video I want to show you how to install it and how to use both of the SQL clients that come along with it. It does come with both a GUI based client and a shell based client. And if you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe. It does help me out a lot. And also, you also get notification whenever I release any new material. And the first thing you're going to do is just go into the H2 database website, the official website. And it is just h2database.com. Even if you don't include the other stuff, it just reroutes to HTML main. And go ahead and click on the download button. Once in here, even though it does include a Windows installer, I always prefer, I find it to be a more consistent experience to download the zip version of installer. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Once you have it saved, in my case I have it in downloads, go ahead and extract the zip file. So basically just use 7-zip or any other extract utility. Windows does come with its own, so I'll use that just because most people will have this available. So just click extract all. Once the file is extracted, let's go ahead and explore that directory. So if I go into that and in here, so the important directory that we're interested in is the bin directory. And this includes the binaries that we need to execute in order to create a database, go into the clients and so on. And the only one that we're really going to be using is this executable jar file. And the only requirement that we do have in order to execute these binaries is that you do need the Java JRE installed. So if you don't have it installed, you will have to go to java.com download. So you can either use the Oracle version, or if you're familiar with like OpenJDK for an open source version, you can also use that. But you will have to install Java to use the H2 database. But once you do have it installed, let's go back to our bin directory. And I'm going to copy this path, my command line, and I'm just going to cd into that directory. So cd, and I pasted the path. And once you're in here, I'm just going to do java/jar, and then I'm just going to put the path to the jar file. So it's this one right here. I can either copy or it'll autocomplete for me. So if I do, let me open this up for you, h2- and press the tab key, it'll autocomplete. So if you hit enter, it'll open up this this console for you, this GUI for you. And what this does is it allows you to create and connect to databases. So in this case, by default, it's going to create a database called test in my home directory. If you're using Linux, your home directory is just home and your username. If you're using Windows, your home is basically your user. So it would be users and then your username. In this case, mine is Developer Soapbox. So if I go in there, this is basically my home. Okay. But if I go back to the console and I'm going to just hit connect to create the database, and it'll open up the SQL client for you. So once you're in here, let's go ahead and create a table. So I'm going to create a new table, and let's create a table for inserting different people, right? So I'm going to create a table named people. I'm going to have an ID, big int, and this is going to be my primary key. And then the name of the person, which is going to be a varchar 50. And in order to execute this statement, I can either click on the run button, or even more conveniently, I can do control enter. So especially if you're familiar with SQL Developer, this was always a really useful shortcut in that tool as well. So you can see that it executed the statement correctly. And once I have my table created, let's go ahead and insert some records. So I can do insert into people values. I'll do 1 and I'll call myself developer. Hit enter, hit it inserted, as you can see here. And let's go ahead and select from people. So select from people. And there we go. So you can see my record in there. Now, one really useful feature that you can see here is if you're doing a select, just a standard select query, it does give you option to edit. So if I click on edit, you can see that I can click the little pencil to edit my record. So I can say, dev soapbox, for example, and then just hit the check to save. I can delete my record by hitting the X, or I can even add new records. So if I want to say ID2 is Bob, and then hit the check to save. There we go. So you can see that it's saved. If I hit enter again, or control and enter for executing the statement, you can see that it did insert my record. As far as other features of this tool, you can see that it does give you kind of, you can kind of drop down into the specific tables, the information schema as well, the users, and so on. So you do have kind of a limited functionality here as well, as far as just informational, right? You can't right click like other tools to add a table or anything like that, but you can kind of drill down and get additional details on here. And one other thing I want to show you is how to import a CSV file. So this is something that most of the time you're going to have to do, right? So you create a table and you want to load records from a flat file. So you can see that in here in my documents folder, I do have a file named people, right? So in my file, it's a pipe delimited file. You can see that I just have the ID and name. And I want to load this file into my people table. Before I can do that, let me go ahead and delete my second row, since I already have someone with the ID of 2 in that file. So again, I can just hit the X and then check. And there we go. So I deleted my record. So in order to read a CSV file in H2, so we can use the CSV read command. And basically it's just CSV read, and then this is the file name, comma, followed by the headers. If the file doesn't have headers, you would have to specify the header here. So it would be, for example, ID and name. In my case, I do have the headers on my file, so I can just specify null. And then the last argument is basically your encoding and your delimiter. So in this case, since I do have a pipe delimited file, which by default CSV read uses a comma, I do have to specify it in here to specify that it is pipe. And I can do that by using the field separator argument. So it's field separator, just like that, is equal to, and then your delimiter. You can also specify the encoding here. So if I wanted to do char set equals UTF-8 and then space, I can also do that here as well. So let's go ahead and put our file name in here. And then add the actual file name, people.txt. And then the other thing you do have to do is, since you can't do backslash, right? So you do have to flip your slashes. So I'm just gonna flip all my window slashes here. Oh, I did forget my from here, so select from there. So there you go. You can see that it reads my file, so I can just do a select to it. And if I wanted to write this into a table, I can just do create table, and let's do a staging error. So staging for people, and as that, right? So I can do that. And if I go into my staging, there you go. So you can see that I have my records there. And if I wanted to insert these into the actual people table, I can do into people that. And again, if I just do select from people, you can see that my records are inserted. And lastly, I do want to show you how to use the shell-based or the command line terminal-based SQL client. I actually only allow one user at a time for the SQL client, right? So I'm just going to do Control-C to close out my that particular executable. Then to execute the command line SQL client, I'm just going to do, it's a little bit different. So in this case, I'm going to do java-cp, and then the same thing, the jar file, and then here you just have to specify the name of the class for the shell-based SQL client, which is org h2.tools shell. And if I hit enter, if you left your actual database path the same as default, so whenever you created the database, you can just hit enter for all the defaults here. So that was the case for me. And if you hit enter enough, so there you go. So now I'm in the tool. So if I do select start from people, you do have to use semicolon to terminate your statement and hit enter. So there you go. You can see the results on my table. And one last thing, one pretty useful comment or pretty useful command that you can use is show tables. And this will list out all the tables that you have available. So you can see people here. And that's the basics of the H2 database. So if you did like this video, please do hit that like button. And please do subscribe. That does help me out a lot. And you also get notified whenever I do release new content. So thank you very much.